The average person thinks finance is so complex because, frankly, the industry tries to make it sound complex. They use words that you don't know, so you don't know what to do. What happens is we just give them our money and say, deal with it. You gotta know that you can't wait till you have a ton of money to start investing. If you can invest in business, even a small amount, you can grow. And I don't care how small it is, but you gotta automate it. You gotta take a percentage of what you earn and pretend it's a tax. You're never gonna see that money again. You automate it, it goes straight to the investment account, and you never see it as money you can spend. When you save 20% and you compound it, its numbers are incredible. So, but then the problem is, if you do that first step, but you don't do the second step, which is become an insider.
Yes.
And understand the rules of the game. I'll give you 2 or 3 of the myths real fast. One, this myth that someone says, give me your money and I'm gonna beat the market. Over any 10-year period of time, 96% of mutual funds will not even match the market. They've all said it. Warren Buffett flat out said today, he said, listen, in my will, 90% of my money, all that money does not go with any mutual fund, it goes straight into the index. What the index is you get a piece of all the largest companies in the world, but it costs almost nothing to get in. You hire someone because you say, I have a family, I have a business, I have a life, I'm not an investor, I'm gonna hire someone who's a professional. It makes sense, they would do better than me. Unfortunately, that's wrong. 4% of them will beat the market. 4% chance of finding the right mutual fund. It's not gonna happen. So the second thing is, after getting terrible performance, people say, well, fees don't really matter, or they'll tell you it's only 1%. Forbes says the average fee is 3.12. Now, 1% versus 3%, big difference.
Huge.
Right? Here's the difference. Just like you grow by compounding, like your fees also compound. If you have 3 people and the one gets 1% in fees, 2%, the other in 3%, they all get the same return. They start out with $100,000 at 35. For 30 years, they accumulate to 65 years old, 7% compounded, they all get 7%. And when they go to retire, the person at 1% in fees is gonna have $574,000. The person at 3% in fees will have $224,000. 77% less money. If I said to you, here's a deal, let's do an investment. You put up all the money, you put up all the risk. I'll put up no money, I'll put up no risk. If you lose, I win, and if you win, I win. And if you win, over the life of the time, I'll get 60% of what you earn. That's a mutual fund with 3%. You could own the stock market, the S&P 500. You can own a piece of all 500 big companies through like the Vanguard 500. Mm-hmm. And you get the best of all the business, Apple, Exxon, all these companies. And it costs you 0.17. If you went to a normal mutual fund, you might own the same companies for 3.17. That's like buying a Honda Accord for $20,000 or $350,000 for the same car. That happens every day. Very excited for this.
I know we worked so hard on it. 2 mindset things that I just thought were amazing in the book. One simple question I'd love you to talk about that you pose to people. You say, why do you invest?
Yes.
And I would love you to talk about how they usually answer versus what they should answer. Because yes. I read that, and I'm fairly well read in this area, but I thought, that's brilliant. That one little distinction in their mind, if they knew why they invested, and they knew the right answer to that, that might change the way they perceive their financial freedom.
Well, it's a good point. Most people, when you ask them why they invest, they don't really know. They'll say things like, well, so that, I can retire someday. Or they'll say something like, I have to build up my assets, or I got to build up my financial strength, or there's only one reason we invest. And when you lose sight of this, the financial system will eat you up. You're investing for income. Income is the only thing that'll buy you financial security and freedom. Income is what gives you your home. Income is what gives you food. Income lets you travel the world. Income lets you put your kids through college. Income lets you throw a party. Income is everything. And the reason I say that is many people, they'll say to me, I say, how you doing? They go, well, I built up $1 million in my 401k. And I go, you don't have $1 million in your 401k. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, first of all, half of that's the government's.
Right. The second you take 50, any money of it. Yeah,
50% tax back for this person. So you have $500,000. The person looks depressed. I said, better to know the truth because I can show you how to get free. But you have to know the truth. The truth will set you free, and better know it so we can do something about it. He goes, wait, but wait, I got tax. I see you got tax deferral, but you could have done that in a different way, and all that money, that $1 million, would have been all of yours. And I can show you how to do that for the future, moving forward, what to do. But the thing is, you're looking for income. If you think about assets, you could build those assets up and you have a 2008 and then all of a sudden half it's gone, and now what happens to your income? And also, when you talk to financial planners, which are interesting group of people, there's a study of the Financial Planning Association, I put it in the book, where they asked 2,500 financial planners, do you have a financial plan? And I couldn't even believe they answered it. 47% said they didn't have one themselves.
The ones who were willing to tell the truth.
Tell it in their own association they did it. And the reason is most of them are overwhelmed. The economy's changed so much. To be fair to them, it's like the cobbler's kids don't have shoes. I mean, it's just like,
Totally true.
Are you kidding me? So it's not enough to go to a financial planner. And most of them have been trained to say, okay, we're going to get you financially secure in your future retirement. So here's what we're going to do. How much income? You make 50,000, 100,000, 20,000? Okay, 100,000 a year. We needed 10 times that for you to have financial freedom. So
they're trying to get you towards an egg number.
That's right. And an egg.
We want this egg, this group of money.
Which is not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. In fact, it's a good idea to know what your target is. But they tell you it's 10 times, you make 100,000, it's 10 times that, it's $1 million. That presupposes that $1 million in a secure environment will give you a 10% return each year to give you 100,000 a year for the rest of your life.
Right.
$1 million
to
times
draw off a
10%.
certain amount of interest, to get a check off that interest every single
So you
year.
can continue to live.
Right.
Because people used to live 6 years back in the 30s. Like 65, they made Social Security 65 because people lived to 62.
Average age 88 now, I think, for
It's
women.
87, yeah, for
84
women.
for men or something.
But in a couple, if you're married, 50% chance want to live to age 92. And the number's growing. So now we have 20 and 30-year retirements. So the number one fear amongst baby boomers is not death. Death is number two, but number two by percentage is way down here. Number one is running out of money while I'm alive. And they should have that fear because most of them, 1 out of 3 baby boomers has $1,000 saved. So they have no source of income coming in. All they have is a little tiny check from Social
Security. Pay their
Security.
heating bill for 3 months and be done.
They're done. They're completely done. So what I wanted to do is show people there's ways, just like there's, first of all, you want to invest where you can figure out what that number really is. And I show people how to do that in the book.
Yeah.
And it isn't times 10. Then I show you how to make that number smaller by having tax efficiency, because every one of these great investors had certain things in common, and one was tax efficiency. Because if you earn more, but you don't keep more, what does it matter? Just like fees, the biggest bill you're ever going to pay in your life is taxes. And instead of being mad at the IRS, I just look at them as like Switzerland. Their job is to come in and take as much money as they can from as many people as they can. Your job is, with absolute honesty, with truth, and with the law behind you, and with total morality, to avoid as much as humanly possible.
To use the rules of the system, like you show. It's like, hey, look, did you know you can do this and keep this much more interest, and this much more interest over a period of time gains you this? I mean, it's just,
you can say,
it's mathematical. That's why I think it bothers people. They're like, they don't like math.
But I show people, you don't have to know math, but I just show people, if I could show you how to retire 10 years earlier, or have twice as much money in the same time, or get to your goal 30 to 50% faster, would you want to know how? Well, the ultra wealthy know how to do it. But now, because of some changes that happened in the marketplace, average people with tiny amounts of money can do the exact same thing, and that money is now yours. And one more thing. Most people know the value of life insurance. We don't like it, but I don't want my family to get in trouble if I die. So most of us buy some life insurance. But there's another question. What if you live? You know?
Right.
I'd like some insurance that if I live, I'm going to live well. So I was with Alicia Linnell, who's the head of retirement research for Boston College, one of those brightest women in the world, used to work for the Fed. And she said, Tony, one of the most exciting tools that's come out is they now have income insurance or longevity insurance. So when you're planning for your future, you only have so much money. You either try to rationalize it, hoping that it'll make it, and then maybe you don't get to use your money or you run out. She says, what you can do with this is you can get some insurance now that says, if you live to this age, from that age on, for as long as you live, you have $50,000 a year. And it doesn't matter if you live 10, 20, 30 years. It doesn't matter how much money you've accumulated in investments. And it's brilliant. And it's cheap.
Right.
Like,
wow.
How old are you?
36.
36, okay. I'm 50.
37, gosh, I'm 37.
37, oh, that's good. You'll be doing that for a while. After 35, you keep forgetting. You always keep down. I'm 54 years old. I can't. The more you can cultivate that sense of wealth, that sense of abundance in you, the more you can feel that sense of joy, the more easy it's going to be for you to do financially. Because you're not going to be in this scarce, fearful mode. Now, that's not enough by itself. You can have this great sense of abundance and do the wrong mechanics and be a disaster. True or false? But if I have an area to get you started with, you want to have the emotion and psychological strength, because that's going to carry you through when the mechanics are boring or frustrating, or when things aren't working out. Your emotion, your psychology is what will carry you. It'll get you to keep doing it. Everyone knows, if you've done any studies, Dr. Seligman is very famous for doing studies on optimism. And in those studies, you know what he found out? People that are pessimists are much more realistic. They're much more accurate. If you give them a test and you ask them to look at something and give you a size measurement of it, or to evaluate their own success or failure at a task. And every study Seligman's done, he did it at the University, I think Pennsylvania if I remember correctly originally, what he found was that optimists always see themselves as doing better than they really did. They basically BS themselves. What happens to pessimists, they're 10 times more accurate. But here's what he found out. What he found out is because the people who are accurate never push themselves because they know it's never going to work anyway. Whereas the optimist sees it better than it is, so they keep doing it. Because they have the illusion they did well, I'll do even better next time. And because of that optimism, they did it more often, and so optimists succeed at a 4 to 5-fold, depending upon the task, result ultimately beyond anything that a pessimist will do, and they're not as accurate. All that's a big way of saying is, if you can develop a psychology of resilience in yourself, you don't have to be optimistic or fake, you can be real. The realness is, whatever shows up, you are larger than anything that can happen to you. You are larger than any financial challenge you could ever face. And the true history could guide you to know you can get through this and not let you be overwhelmed by the moment. But also the gratitude can put you in that sense of wealth. Fijians are wealthy. Whenever I bring friends there, we have 325 acres and 3 miles of ocean frontage. It's unbelievable. But you go up these 2 villages and my friends initially will say, well, look at their houses, look at their homes, and they don't really have electricity, they don't have this, but they don't feel poor. It's your identity. The way you define the wealth determines whether you're wealthy or not. So are there enough things for you, knowing that 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day, that you could get yourself to really feel grateful, yes or no? Yes. How much of your life do you get benefits from today that you never had to create? Think about it. Like I said, the roads you ride on, the library, the books you didn't have to write, right? The internet that you can access in seconds and get answers to just about anything. The people in your life that you didn't have to raise, but are there for you. Think about all the different aspects of your life. If you want to be wealthy, all you have to do is associate. So before we do the financial part, because financial independence is different than wealth. Wealth is that state of mind, financial independence is being in that position where you don't ever have to work again. That if you work, you do it because you really want to. Now I'll give you a clue. If you get financially independent and you don't work, you'll be miserable. I can't tell you how many friends I have that sold their company, made $50 million, one man made almost $1 billion, and was really excited for a while, but after a while it was like bored. His vehicle of his business gave him a sense of contribution, and he was always growing, figuring out how to solve problems, and he had all the people he was connected to in the business, all the employees and friends and associates, and he was significant because he was doing something worthwhile. And he had tremendous certainty because he knew the business, and also variety because it's always changing. And now he had this money. So the real secret is to be financially free, to be financially independent. You want to get where you never have to work again, but you do. Because you want to. That's when life gets very cool. When you don't have to work, but you want to, you often work harder. I enjoy my life today. I don't have to work. That's one of the most killer experiences in life. So I want to tell you, I'm not just saying this as some little positive thinking technique. I'm telling you, this is the secret, the real secret, to shift it inside of you and to add the real value. Most people are trying to pursue something in the future that they already have. I want you to think of what it is you think you want that will make you wealthy or financially free. RPM planning is a way to maximize the results of your life and maximize your sense of fulfillment and joy. It's both. In order to do that, we got to change what we focus on from the question of what do I have to do to what's my outcome? What do I want? What's most important to me? What's the result I'm committed to getting? That one change will change completely how you respond in your life, because it'll change you from focusing where everyone's demanding your attention or what you're afraid of or what might give you pleasure in the moment to what's most important to you. And those, by the way, are the 3 things that get our focus. If we don't discipline ourselves, what gets our focus? Something we're afraid of, something that give us pain. What's the second thing that gets our focus if we don't pay attention? Something will give us pleasure. It's like, you know what, I'm so stressed out. Oh, that chocolate's looking good. Oh, that, I'm gonna go over to have my little coffee, my smocha mocha doka cream, this thing and that thing, and I'm gonna escape for a few moments. Because the focus is how to feel good. How to not feel bad, how to feel good. What's the third thing that gets your focus? Other people's demands. It's not necessarily there are more demands, it's just that we're accessible to more demands. And if you don't know what you want, and you don't know why it's a must for you to achieve it, and you don't have a plan, I can promise you something. You're going to fit in everybody else's plan. And you're going to wonder why you're stressed. And you're going to wonder why I'm not fulfilled. What is time? How do you know when it's a long time, or how do you know when it's a short time? It's not because it's 10 minutes or 10 hours. How many have been in 10 hours and time flew because you loved what you're doing, didn't have any sense of time whatsoever? How many have had that experience? Say aye. How many have had 10 minutes feel like 10 years, you want to kill somebody to get out of the situation? So what is time? Time is emotion. Got to remember that time is emotion. What you're really managing is emotion. Another word for that would be meaning or fulfillment. Focus is power, but you got to take it. Take it back. Take back that power. And you got to know when you do have that focus, how to chunk it, how to group it so you're not overwhelmed. Let me show you how to make it simpler. When mass information is coming at you, you get overwhelmed. Most of us are great deletion creatures. We delete most of life. Right now, there are millions of things around you could be focusing on, thinking about, giving meanings to, making decisions about what to do. Millions. And when you think about what it's going to take to do something, usually it takes a lot, and you're not going to want to do it. So I'll do it when? Later. As my Australian friends would say, later. Right? And of course, the problem with doing it tomorrow is when you get to tomorrow, tomorrow is today, and tomorrow never comes. So, and you keep promising yourself. By the way, what does this do to you emotionally when you keep breaking your own promises with yourself? Or you keep failing to do things that you know are important? Does it increase your level of certainty and confidence? No. What it does is it erodes it. And when you erode confidence in one area, believe it or not, it affects the other areas too. Do you believe me on that? Don't believe me. What about your own life experience? Maybe not one area, but it starts to be multiple areas, it sure does. Another reason why somebody doesn't exercise or do anything is because they don't just chunk it too big, they chunk it in too many details. So remember this. Remember this. Change is never a matter of ability. It's always a matter of motivation. I'll say that again. Change is never a matter of ability. It's always a matter of motivation or drive, having strong enough reasons. If you got a strong enough reason, you could figure out the time, couldn't you? So the biggest part of life and time management is knowing what you want and having enough reasons to follow through. But there is one more piece. If you make enough reasons to follow through and you know what you want, but you make the task overwhelming, you'll be overwhelmed. What you focus on, you feel. What you feel, you are moved to somehow actuate. But if you only focus on what you don't want, or what's stressful in your life, what you can't control, or what you screwed up on, or what you messed up on in the past, not going to get where you want to be. Chunking is power. You don't want to over chunk where you're trying to bite the whole darn thing together. You also don't want to under chunk where you make a million pieces of something. What is chunking? It's taking all that's coming at you and putting it into idealized size groups that your mind can handle. See, science has proven the human brain, consciously, we can only handle what they call 7 ± 2 chunks of information. It's a term that they describe in science, that human beings can only handle 7 ± 2 chunks of information at one time. Mutual fund managers are going to do better. But what's the facts? All the research out there, I don't care if I was talking to Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett says you're not going to beat the index fund. So why would you pay for it?
That was the advice he gave his family. If he was gone, he said, put it in an index fund. Put it in Vanguard 500 index, let it ride, because you're not going to beat it.
Check this number out. If you're listening, you got to watch and listen. Over any 10-year period of time, 96% of all mutual funds don't match the market that you could have got for next to nothing.
Mm-hmm. And most mutual fund people who are telling you buy mutual funds, they don't even own their own mutual fund.
You read it.
They don't know the products.
I'm glad you read that.
They don't know the products.
The very people that are managing it, if it was so great, wouldn't they put their own money in it?
Right.
More than half have no money in their own mutual fund, not a dime.
And most of them are not what we would call financially free, depending on where they're at.
That means if 96% fail, 4% succeed. So your brain says, I'm smart, I'm going to find the 4%. Well, if you go to Morningstar and you pick the ones that are 5 stars, that's not going to be your 4% in most cases. So how are you going to do it? What are your chances of victory? What are your chances of picking the right one? So the best metaphor I can tell you is most people have played 21 or blackjack at some point, right? We all know play, right? You get to 21, you get above 21, you're screwed, you're out of the game, right? So let's say you and I are playing blackjack and boom, you get 2 face cards worth 20 points. if your inner idiot was to say, hit me, right?
Right.
Or you got to get a card, only one card will work. You got an 8% chance of winning at blackjack with 2 face cards. You got a 4% chance of picking the right mutual fund. So when you get that, and then you look at Warren Buffett, and by the way, he bet a group of hedge fund guys 5 years ago, protege partners, he said, you pick a group of hedge funds, pick the top 5 you want. Hedge funds, this is what the wealthy people invest in. And I'll beat you with the index, I bet you $1 million. And right now, it's not yet done, I think there's 4 more years left, but he's up like 20%,
just no chance,
25% above it. So I want people to know, when you get beyond it, you got to start beyond it.
You know,
something has to click inside you.
You had this action of abundance.
It was.
That's what it was.
It was the day. It was the day. I told you that's the day I became a wealthy man. The day I gave up everything and had no fear.
Yeah, when you give without expectation, and when you give in that moment when
and
you
not
don't
for
have a
positioning,
lot.
not for positioning, not to try
to
and be somebody, just because it felt right. So I've let that guide me throughout my life, and it's been, I've had my moments. I've been stupid. I've done dumb things and smart things and everything in between. But I've never gone back to that scarcity. And when that's gone, you can do just about anything else. But I tell people, if you don't give a dime out of a dollar, you're not going to give $1 million out of 10 million or 100 million out of $1 billion. You're bullshitting yourself.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing, and
because
wherever it's fixed now, it's going to be the same. You throw more money on it, it's the same exact mindset.
And when people, the universe has a unique way of guiding you if you pay attention to resources. And I became resourceful out of pretty much a necessity. Today, I just hate to see people suffer, and I love to see people lit up. And most people settle for far less than who they are capable of being and who I think they really are in their heart and their soul. And so I bring people strategies and tools to improve their body, their emotions, their relationships, their finances, the areas of life that I think matter most.
Let's unpack that a little.
What I realize is it teaches your brain there's more than enough when you will give what you don't think you can give. And until you do that, there's a war inside.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you got to go give everything away and everything else. I'm not suggesting that, but
there was a simple action.
it was
of
very
abundance.
simple. And it wasn't
lunch.
huge lumps of money.
It was a lunch, just like a lot of people, the first time they go down the soup kitchen and they actually serve something up.
Exactly
and
right.
they also contribute to that meal, like we'll talk about with what you're doing and giving. They see the look on other people's faces, and now they know it's not about their $20.
No.
It's not about their bank account at all.
No.
It's about, wow, this is humanity. We're all struggling. We're all in this, and maybe that money can be a transactional thing, but it can also be a very meaningful thing.
Yeah.
And I've loved how you approach that in your book. It's not just about money. It's not just about wealth. It's not just about finances. It's about what's your life about.
Yeah.
And you've done a really great job with that.